Well, one of the many complaints about China is the quality of and safety of its products, namely the thing no human can live without, food. Welcome back to MidPoint. John Bachman in for Ed Berliner today. From society to the advance of financial education, Steve Beaman joins us now to talk more about China. China has a very extensive and complex regulatory system. It's not the kind of thing you can just change overnight. What sort of developments do you see realistically happening in China in 2015, Steve?
Oh, well, hello, and thanks, pardon me, thanks for having me on the program. Yeah, China, people need to understand that the agricultural industry in China is run by the government. And as a result
As is everything else, right?
Well, exactly. This is a state-run economy. And so if we look at foods that Americans eat, and this is direct to home if folks like tilapia, for example, 80% of the tilapia in the United States is manufactured out of China. And it's interesting to note, Chinese fishermen will not let their children eat that tilapia because they use so many pesticides, so many hormones, so many things that we in this country consider to be an anathema.
And so, Steve, let me ask you then, if they won't let their kids eat that tilapia, how does it get into this country in the first place?
Well, the import rules and regulations that have evolved very slowly are behind the eight ball on American food quality standards. So China, in response to this, in trying to keep their agricultural exports up, is making aggressive strides here as we approach 2015 to clean up some of these issues. They're imposing much more EPA-like regulations on how the land is managed, on how the food supplies are managed, so that the quality of that tilapia, or again, the cod, 50% of all cod in the United States, I think it's 20% of all apple juice or more is made in China. So these are real things for the American consumer, and Chinese government officials have made great strides in really making this an issue that needs to be addressed.
Now, there's also this issue about Chinese-made dog food. Now, it's one thing to provide human food that might not be safe, but let alone you do this and provide dog food that couldn't be safe. The American public finally up in arms now.
That's exactly right. And as Ed and I talked, he is a dog lover, and many of us are, and we don't want to jeopardize our dog's health. But I think people need to be aware when they buy their animal safety or their animal health products, food or other things, where they're coming from. And right now, China does not have the best reputation in the world for providing safe pet food for your animals. So I would probably steer away from that. But again, they are making strides, but given that it's a state-controlled economy, it will take several years before their quality standards come up to ours.
Yeah, and the difficulty, I mean, from what I've read, there's almost some sort of ingredient that's always made in China when you're looking at dog foods, from the top on down.
Well, little things people don't realize. If you take vitamin C, most of the vitamin C is made in China. So these are ubiquitous throughout the economy, but you want to be careful, again, where the sourcing is. I would tend to trust American food products more than anyone in the world.
Yeah, that's always safe. You know, the closer it is to home, probably the better off you are. Now, we also want to talk about Twitter. This is a tease that I butchered before we went to the break. Someone wrote a really nice tease, and I just didn't nail it, so I apologize to that producer. But Twitter trying to set up shop in Asia and Hong Kong, even though it's banned in places like China. Are they eventually going to have, a significant sphere of influence in China?
Well, eventually the Chinese government will have to open up to these technologies. Again, we've talked about the fact that China is a state-controlled economy. They are afraid of information flow. But Twitter and the other technologies that give free communication to people and businesses will eventually overcome that state-run system. They can't avoid it. So now that Twitter's got its inroads into Hong Kong, the next step will be going to Shanghai, where their business community needs Twitter to communicate to the outside world.
All right, Steve Beaman, we got about 30 seconds left to go. We're talking about China, but I do want to ask you, because we're expecting to hear from Hillary Clinton a little bit later today. What's your prediction? Does she take questions or not?
Oh, I think she'll be avoiding this email thing like the plague that it is. This is a really potentially explosive thing for the Clinton campaign. And it doesn't matter if you're left, right, or in the middle. You cannot look at somebody hiding information from the American people as a good thing.
Well, certainly it'll be interesting to see. A lot of folks saying she might actually take questions, which would be very un-Hillary of her to do, but she might be backed into her corner at this point. Steve Beaman joining us. Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
I sure like to see those answers that come out.
Well, I like to see the questions, knowing the press corps. Hopefully they'll get aggressive, because there are a lot of questions hanging out there. Steve Beaman coming to us from Chicago. Always a pleasure to talk with you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, more to come here on MidPoint when we return. Racist fraternity students caught on camera in a university taking a zero-tolerance stand. But is it too soon?